All right, looks like we are live. Welcome everyone to our first time homebuyer webinar. I'm Megan Mitchell and I'm here today with Jacob Barnes and Nikki Zanis. And the three of us are all real estate agents on the Canis Realty team with Coldwell Banker and Burlingame. And also joining we have Nikki James, who is a fabulous mortgage lender with Star Bank. So how's everybody doing today?
Great, thanks,
Excellent.
Megan.
Doing great.
Perfect. Well, I know I speak for all of us when I say that we're all super excited to be here to talk a little bit about what's been on everyone's mind, I think, lately, which is buying a home in today's market. But specifically, we're going to be talking about what the overall home process looks like for first-time home buyers. And so we'll begin by diving into the first step of the process, which is getting pre-approved with a mortgage lender. So I'd like to first open up the floor to Nikki Zanis from the Canis Realty team. So Nikki, why is getting set up with a trusted mortgage lender so important in understanding what you can afford?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Ultimately, what we try to relay to people who are just starting that preliminary process of looking at homes is that you need to speak with a mortgage lender. It's just so important. A lot of people, they almost seem that they're a little bit scared to maybe make that commitment. With the apps on the phones now, it's so easy to sort of be able to window shop. And a lot of people think that they understand the process and they see homes they like and they feel that they will go down that road at some point. They're not quite ready to speak to somebody yet. And what they don't realize is a lot of times they could be looking at a home that they really like and they fall in love with it. And then they won't be able to actually pull the trigger on it because they haven't gone through that process yet. That's really number one. A lot of buyers, they have to go through the process of actually missing out on something that they really got their heart set on before they realize that now they need to come back to me as the buyer's agent and really grab onto my hand and let me walk them along that process and introduce them to, a trusted mortgage lender, someone like Nikki James. And, what she's going to be able to do is be an advisor for somebody and really narrow down what it is that they can afford. And it doesn't cost anything. That's the key too. When it comes to someone who's thinking about buying a home, it doesn't cost anything at all to speak with a mortgage lender. And that's something I really, really try to hit home because, it's really that commitment I feel people are really scared of and they want to look at lots of properties. But, when you get to speak with a mortgage lender, they're going to tell you, what it is in terms of what your debt to income is. Maybe there's debt that you have that actually is beneficial for you because now you have that longevity, you have some of that credit depth that the bank would want to utilize to get you a better deal, things of that nature. A lot of people automatically go through their mind having an idea what they can afford, and really speaking with the lender is what's going to really help them better understand what the next step is. And, thirdly, that all comes down to price. Once a person really has the idea of what it is they need to do, what they need to save, what they maybe need to rearrange in terms of their portfolio to be able to put in for that down payment, the mortgage lender is really then going to be able to give them that price point. And now when you're out looking for homes, you're not really wasting your time anymore. Now you can really work hand in hand with your realtor, kind of be able to pick and choose what you want, what you need, and really kind of determine, what it is you're looking for in the market. And now you can go out there and you can really be proactive and you can really be productive in the marketplace. And then you're ready to go get a home. So, it's great to look at houses online. And, when you're at that point where you've met a realtor that you trust, let them put you in touch with one of their trusted lenders, because it is going to go a long way towards getting you started on the process. It's the first thing you have to do. And, you shouldn't be afraid to do it. It's the best thing you can do. You just got to lay it all on the line for them and allow them to utilize their years of expertise to show you what the next best steps are. And then we can go look at homes. And so that's really the reason it's so important to get in touch with a mortgage lender. And you just got to take that step.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great points there, Nikki. And I think it's also a great segue into what the other Nikki on our panel is going to be touching on for us today. So again, Nikki James with Flagstar Bank is one of our trusted mortgage lenders. So Nikki, can you give us a little more information on what it takes for someone to get pre-approved for buying a home today?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks, Nikki, other Nikki. That was a great introduction. Couldn't have said it better myself. So it is so important. There's so many things we can look at ahead of time to make the process smoother once you're really ready to go. So I'm going to go through those. I'm going to share a screen here and just give you an idea of what it is that we look at and then what is the process. So in the lending world, the main things that we're looking at is your debt, which obviously is, what you owe to people currently. Your income, the collateral is the house. So of course, in a pre-approval, that it doesn't come into it yet. Although we do ask you, is it likely to be a condo? Because there are some nuances with condos. We look at your credit. So different from debt. Debt is how much you owe to whom. Credit is your actual score, which I'm sure you know about. And there is some distinctions there that we'll drill into a little bit. And then assets. How much do you have saved towards a down payment? So that's the fundamental bucket that everything falls into when we're looking to pre-approve you. So as we go on down, the next thing that we're looking at is here, when I go into more detail on the debt, here are some high-level things that you can do. Using a few of your cards, keeping the balances under a third, those are just like really high level to maximize your credit score. Make sure that you don't have a card maxed out the day that your lender pulls the credit report. If you're paying it off monthly, but you let it run up to the maximum monthly, tell the lender, hey, hang on a second, I'm at the max, wait for me to pay it off, because in the next day, your score will go from one score to the next if you are maxed out on some of the balances. This is just high level. If you get collections, don't pay it immediately if you're about to go get pre-approved. So just as a note, it will, if it's an old collection that you've been just ignoring, don't pay it immediately. If you pay it immediately, it actually hurts your score right then and there. So the lender may have you pay it through escrow. So make sure you check with them. And then just as a high level note, watch medical. They go to collection really fast. So anyway, that's the high level on credit. We like to see 3 trade lines. This is to have the maximum opportunity for yourself. 3 trade lines: credit card, car loan, student loan, any combination of the above. 3 credit cards, 3 student loans. Don't get 3 cars because then you can't qualify for a house. But anyway, so some combination of that, that's what we're looking for in terms of trade line. Just as a note here, rental income, rental history is so important. And if you pay in Venmo, it gets a little harder for us to actually document that. We need to look and make sure you've paid your rent on time for the last 12 months. So just be careful on that. If your roommate pays 1 month, you pay the next, that's not good. We want you to pay consistently for 12 months, just like you would be a mortgage. That's what we're looking for there. And then I'm not going to go into is buying out. That's a little bit more detailed in terms of a car, but just, watch those higher payments. They can affect your debt to income ratio. And I'll go through that in a second as to what that is. In income, we obviously look at your salary. Salary is golden. We look at it immediately. When you get a new job, if you get a raise, we look at that immediately. Job gaps can be tricky. So if you do have any breaks in employment, make sure that you talk to us about that ahead of time. Commission and bonus, anything that's variable, we look at a 2-year history because we don't know if you're going to continue to get that payment. So, we look at, well, what's the likelihood? What did they have in the past? Okay, that looks good. That's about what we'll use there. And then RSUs, a lot of people get compensated with restricted stock units. We can use that to qualify an income. So talk to us, it's detailed, and I'll go through those details with you there. In terms of assets, you need some. We do have low down payment loans, but this is where saving for the down payment is a good thing to do. So have the practice ahead of time. But kind of like Nikki said, call us before you start paying off debt or saving. We want to make sure that we're strategic. So perhaps it might be that, yes, you have a high minimum payment student loan that we want you to pay off, or we may prefer you to have more money in savings, more money in reserves. So before you move money around, first of all, keep saving it. That's just number one. Keep saving it. Don't stop. That's great. But in terms of when you then put it in different places, talk to us first, even if it's 2 years away or a year away. It's much better to have us advise you what to do now than try and take it back, because once you've paid off debt, it's harder for us to extract that. And that's, for people who already own a home, a lot of people will pay off their mortgage and then they'll have no assets and we can't transact. So you can't eat equity. All right, and then 401ks, that's just always do it. It's just a good thing, especially if you have matching. So max that out. So that's high level on assets. We do use 401k as reserves. So reserves are money you have left over after the close of escrow. And most loans require a certain amount of reserves. We want to make sure that if you lose your job, you've got a couple months payments in the bank. All right, so moving on down from there. A lot of people think about the down payment. That's cash that obviously you have to come up with. We have 3.5% down payments, 10%. Most loans, you're looking at 20% in the Bay Area if you can, for two reasons. One, to compete on the transaction and actually get the seller to accept your offer. And the other is just because the prices are higher. And so 20% down is more common. But remember, we have closing costs in addition. So those vary. Counties and cities are different. Some cities have transfer taxes, some cities don't. So make sure you talk to the Canis team will help you know which those cities are when you're out there looking. And reserves we just talked about. Super high level, this is how we qualify. So I talked a little bit earlier on about paying off high payments or having too many cars and messing with your debt to income ratio. This is what I'm referring to. This is the math that we use in qualifying. Your principal and interest payment, that's the payment you make to the bank on the mortgage. So just like your rent. Taxes, property taxes. We'll talk in detail on another webinar about those when they're paid and how they work, but property taxes have to be paid on a home. And insurance. Those are the things that we as a lending world say you absolutely have to pay. We know you probably want to have Comcast and your trash picked up and you have water and electricity. We don't require that in our calculations. We're just looking at this principal and interest, taxes and insurance, which you'll hear us call PITI. So we take that PITI plus your other debt, so student loans, car loans, any credit cards, and we divide that by your income. I'm in the bottom right square here. That's what we call your debt to income ratio. And in a perfect world, we're looking for that to be under 43 in most cases. Not all, but in most cases of gross income. That's a thing that a lot of people miss. It's not net. It's not what you see. It's of your gross income. All right, so I want to get pre-approved. What do I need to gather? So start on your computer, setting aside a file and just each month dumping these things in because it will be super useful for you, especially on that rent. Remember I said we need 12 months proof of you paying rent. So each month, just stick it in, if you have you can do an online transaction summary or each month just, put a copy of the canceled check in. So we need obviously an application, current pay stubs. If you get bonus income, we'll ask for your year-end bonus, your year-end pay stubs, W-2s for the last 2 years, and tax returns, and then 2 current bank statements, plus your retirement. The federal tax returns are only needed in most of the larger loans. In the smaller loans, if you don't own any property and you don't have any self-employed income, we don't always need tax returns, just as a note there. All right, so that's high level, the documents you'll get together for your lender. And here's just a conversation about pre-approval versus pre-qualification. So you may hear people say, oh, I can pre-qualify you. That just means I've looked at your numbers and it all looks kind of okay. Pre-approval means me and my underwriter have looked at your numbers and it absolutely is okay. And that's what you need to compete in most markets now. What we're looking for is a pre-approval. We're looking to know that this is a done deal, that you can go in non-contingent, and the team here will talk to you about that and what non-contingent means. But it is important to be able to compete that you are fully pre-approved. So we will help you get to that point. And let's see. We'll save the escrow conversation for another day. I think it's a lot more detail in terms of what escrow is and what it means, and we can drill into that on another webinar. So Megan, any questions for you there?
Yeah, we did have a question from one of the viewers. Is there a cap on the amount of 401k that can be used?
We use, general rule of thumb is 60%. So there's 2 things that we use it for. For reserves, we're looking at, so let's say you have 100,000 in a 401k, we're going to look at about 60,000 of that for reserve. We don't make you do anything with it. We're not making you liquidate it. We just know that in the event of a hardship, if you liquidate it, you'd have to pay taxes and penalties. So that's why we shave that sort of 40% off. But we don't move it around. We don't do anything with it. One of the wonderful things that you can do is you can use a 401k loan towards your down payment. So if you have 100,000 in your 401k, with most plans, and this is up to your plan, you can use 50% of that 401k, normally up to a maximum of 50,000, which if it's 100,000 is the same thing. So normally you can get 50k out of a 401k as long as the balance is at least 100,000, and use that to towards a down payment. With most plans, you have to check with your plan administrator. But for us in the lending world, we don't count a payment against you because you're actually paying yourself. So that you have an interest rate, you pay yourself. So it's a really great way to help you boost your down payment. Again, of course, we can't use that money now for reserves because you've taken it out, but it's a loan. So you're not actually withdrawing, you're not hitting penalties, you're not having taxes. So that's a great way to be able to use the 401k.
Definitely.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, super useful, Nikki. I love the slideshow. It really gives a good overview of all of the details that do go into that, and just goes to show why it is so important and useful to work with a trusted loan advisor there who can really guide you through that and get you prepared. So with that, Jacob from the Candace Realty team, would you like to briefly touch on how we work with our buyers once their pre-approval process is completed?
Thanks, Megan. Yes, I would love to. So at this point, you're going to have your pre-approval letter, okay? After you meet with Nikki, meet with your lender, and you go through all those steps. As you can see, there's a lot involved. After that, at that point, you have your pre-approval letter, and then you'll come talk to your real estate agent. Talk to your real estate agent, and well, at least what we do is we will send over a buyer profile. The buyer profile is basically going to have the stipulations for, bedroom, bathroom, what you're looking for, like as far as square footage, the lot size, if you want it to be close to a freeway or not close to a freeway, things you don't want, things you do want. Okay, so we'll have you fill that out, and then you get that back to us. And from there, we're going to meet. Okay, so we'll either meet via Zoom or we can meet in person. We can also talk on the phone, but it's better to meet in person or via Zoom. And then we'll actually fine tune that criteria. From there, then using that criteria, the baseline expectations, and your pre-approval letter, we could then set up an MLS search. And it's important to get pre-approved first, again, because we need to know, what you can afford. And that's going to dictate what areas we can actually look in. So then we're going to set that up in the MLS, the multiple listing service. And each time a property within your criteria comes in the market, you'll get an email, and so will we. And if it's something you're interested in, something we think you should take a look at, we go take a look at it. And really at that point, that's when the search actually starts. Okay, so you meet with the lender first, you get all that paperwork done. It sounds like it's really complicated. It's the hard stuff, and it is complicated, but ultimately Nikki's going to make it very easy for you. And it's just really getting them paperwork and learning and going through that process. But once you get that done, that first hard part's over. Then you start the search, you meet with us, we see what you're interested in, what you're looking for in a property. And, like I said, that's where the search actually starts. And that's ultimately where the fun begins.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Jacob. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up our webinar for today, but we do have upcoming webinars planned where we'll be diving into more of the details on the pre-approval side, kind of getting into the nitty gritty there on what they look at and what it takes in that regard. And we'll also be talking more about the home search process. So thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. I know that we all appreciate it. And for more information for home buyers or anything real estate, lending related, be sure to subscribe to our pages. So thank you all for being on our panel today. And I think we'll wrap it up.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, everyone.